My boss accused me of faking a medical emergency to leave work early. The ambulance showed up before I could finish arguing. The pressure hit me in the middle of a normal afternoon, like somebody was sitting on my chest. My left arm started to ache, a dull weight from shoulder to fingertips. A cold sweat broke out all over me. I knew something was very wrong. I went to my boss, Mr. Keene, and told him I needed to get to a hospital. He did not even look up from his monitor at first. Mr. Keene had a whole thing about being the one manager nobody could ever put one over on, and he said it so often that people had stopped bringing him real problems. He had been running our floor for 11 years. He kept a wooden plaque on his desk that said, "Trust earned, not given," which he had bought for himself. When he finally did look up, he gave me a little smile, like he had caught me at something. Chest pain, right now. The afternoon the quarterly report is due. What a coincidence. I told him I was serious, that this was not about the report. "You know how many times I have heard this exact story?" he said, leaning back in his chair. "Somebody always gets a mysterious emergency the week a deadline lands. I run a tight ship here. I do not fall for theater. If you want to milk a stomachache, fine, but it comes out of your pay and it goes in your file." The pressure was getting heavier. I had to put my hand on his desk to stay steady. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed too bright. The edges of the room were starting to blur. "Mr. Keene, I am not asking to go home," I said. "I am telling you I need an ambulance." That set him off. "An ambulance for indigestion. Do you have any idea how that makes this department look? Sit down and we will talk about your attitude when you are done with the performance." A woman from my team named Dana stood up at her desk, looking scared. I caught her eye. "Dana," I said, "call 911. I mean it. Call them now." Mr. Keene spun toward her. "Put the phone down. Nobody is calling 911 over a stress ball of an excuse. This is my floor, and I decide what is an emergency on it." But Dana already had the phone to her ear, talking fast to the operator, giving them our building and our floor and what she was watching happen. I will give her that for the rest of my life. By then, I could not stand. The room had gone swimmy. I sat down hard in the nearest chair because my legs would not hold me. A couple of people from the next row came around their desks and crouched near me, not sure what to do, while Mr. Keene waved them back to work. Mr. Keene stood over me, telling me I had pulled one stunt too many. I stopped arguing. I did not have the air to spare on him. I just focused on breathing and waited for the people Dana had called. They came faster than I expected. 2 paramedics came through the office doors with a bag and a stretcher, and the whole floor went still as they pushed past the cubicles toward me. Mr. Keene actually stepped in front of them with his hands up. "I think this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion," he told them. "My employee is fine. He is just looking for a way out of a busy afternoon. You did not need to come all the way out here for this." One of the paramedics moved him aside without slowing down, knelt next to me, put 2 fingers on my wrist and a hand on my chest, and then looked at her partner and said a few short words I did not understand, but understood completely from how fast they both started moving. They had me on the stretcher in under a minute. As they wheeled me out, I heard the same paramedic tell Mr. Keene, flat and hard, that I was having a serious cardiac event, and the minutes he had spent arguing were minutes I did not have to give. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was my boss standing in the middle of his floor, in front of every single person who worked under him, with no idea what to do with his hands. I had a real heart attack. The doctors told me later that getting to them as fast as I did was the reason I was still around to be annoyed about any of it. Another 10 minutes might have been the end of me. Dana came to see me in the hospital the next morning. She pulled a chair up next to my bed and sat down with her jacket still on. She told me that after the stretcher went through the doors, the whole floor just stopped. Nobody typed, nobody talked. It was like that for about 10 seconds. Everyone looking at each other, and then at the doors I had gone through. Then Mr. Keene straightened his tie, looked at the room, and told everyone the situation had been handled and they needed to get back to work. Nobody moved. He said it louder. I said, "Get back to your stations. The show is over." Then she told me that about an hour after the ambulance left, Mr. Keene sent out an email to the entire department. She pulled out her phone and held it up so I could read the screen. It was one paragraph. It said that I had left early due to a personal matter and reminded everyone that the quarterly report deadline had not changed and all deliverables were still expected on time. That was it. No mention of a heart attack. No mention of paramedics walking through the office with a stretcher. No mention of the fact that my boss had physically stepped in front of 2 medical professionals and tried to send them away. He just erased it. I read it twice on Dana's phone because part of me kept thinking I was missing a line. I was not. That was his version. Dana said a few people had pushed back quietly, but Mr. Keene pulled 3 of them into his office one at a time before the end of the day. Door closed. After they came out, nobody was really talking about it anymore. "He is good at making people feel like they imagine things," Dana said, and the way she said it told me she had watched him do it before. Then she said there was one more thing. She told me Mr. Keene had put a formal write-up in my employee file that same afternoon. The reason listed was unapproved departure during critical deadline period. I just stared at her. I was lying in a hospital bed with wires stuck to my chest. There was a machine next to me tracking every beat of the heart that had almost quit on me a day ago, and my boss had already filed a write-up while I was still in surgery. He had put it in my file like I had just walked out of the office because I felt like it. "I took a screenshot of the email and the write-up," Dana said. "I do not know if it helps, but I wanted you to have it." I thanked her. I meant it more than I think she knew. She squeezed my hand once and left. I lay there a long time after she went. I thought about just letting it go. I really did. It would be easier. But then I turned my head and looked at the monitor next to my bed, the green line going up and down every time my heart beat, and I thought about those minutes. The minutes Mr. Keene took from me. The minutes he spent telling me I was faking it while my heart was failing. He wanted to erase it. I was going to make sure it stayed written down. I called HR the next morning from the hospital bed. I told the representative everything, step by step. The chest pain, going to Mr. Keene, his refusal, the accusation that I was faking it, the order he gave Dana not to call 911, the way he physically stepped in front of the paramedics. She took notes the whole time. I could hear her typing on the other end. When I was done, she said they would look into it. For about 5 seconds, I felt something close to relief. 5 seconds. That is how long it lasted. Then she said, "I should let you know that Mr. Keene has already filed his own account of the incident. He says he was concerned about your well-being and helped facilitate the emergency response." I almost laughed. I swear I almost laughed out loud in my hospital bed. "Is that a joke?" I said. She told me me it was not. She said Mr. Keen's statement described him as the person who calmly managed the situation and ensured the employee received prompt attention. I told her that was the opposite of what happened. I told her there were witnesses to every single word he said, that an entire floor of people watched him try to stop the paramedics from reaching me. We take all accounts seriously, she said. We will be speaking with members of the team. Her voice was even, careful, professional. She was not picking sides. I hung up and sat there holding my phone in my lap. Mr. Keen had gotten out in front of me. He had sat down at his desk and written up a version where he was the hero, and he had sent it to HR before I had the chance to open my mouth. I called Dana. I told her everything the HR representative had said, word for word, including the part about Mr. Keen's statement describing himself as the one who facilitated the emergency response. Dana went quiet on the other end. Then she told me Mr. Keen had called a team meeting that morning, before any HR calls went out. He had gathered everyone together and told them the company might be reaching out about the incident. That was what he called it. He reminded them their department had a strong track record, and they should all be proud of the work they did. Then he said, one person's bad day should not define an entire team's reputation. Dana said it was not a direct threat. He did not say, do not talk to HR, or keep your mouth shut. He was smarter than that. He wrapped it up in team loyalty and department pride. He made it sound like talking to HR would hurt all of us, not just him, Dana said. I could hear how tired she sounded. I asked her if she was willing to tell HR what she saw. There was a long pause, long enough that I almost asked if she was still there. Then she said, I already told them I would talk to them, but I am the only one so far. Everyone else is scared. There it was, the real problem. It was not just Mr. Keen I was up against. It was the silence he had built around himself. He had spent years being the kind of boss who made people second-guess themselves, who pulled them into closed-door meetings and sent them back out quieter than they went in. He had turned his entire floor into people who knew better than to say what they saw. Even now, even after they watched him block paramedics, they were too afraid to say it out loud. I needed proof that did not depend on anyone being brave enough to talk. I asked Dana about security cameras on our floor. She would check. The 911 call would be recorded. I asked the nurse for a notebook and started a list. Paramedics incident report, 911 recording, security footage, Mr. Keen's email, the write-up, Dana's screenshot. It was just 5 or 6 lines in shaky handwriting, but it felt like the start of something he could not rewrite with a one-paragraph email. 2 days later, a nurse came in and told me I had a visitor. I figured it was Dana. It was not. Mr. Keen walked in wearing his work clothes, sleeves rolled to the elbows like it was just another Tuesday at the office. He had a manila folder in his hand. He walked to the chair next to my bed and sat down like he had been invited. Like we were in his office and not a hospital room where I was recovering from the heart attack he had tried to talk me out of having. He did not say hello. He did not ask how I was doing. He did not look at the wires on my chest or the monitor or any of it. He sat down, crossed one leg over the other, and opened the folder. I wanted to bring this by in person, he said, like he was doing me a favor. HR suggested we get ahead of any misunderstandings. This is a joint statement acknowledging that the department handled your medical event appropriately and that all protocols were followed. I need your signature. He slid a single page out of the folder and held it toward me. I took it because I did not know what else to do with my hands. Typed clean, signature line at the bottom. It said, Mr. Keen immediately supported the emergency response and that I voluntarily acknowledge no delays occurred in my treatment. I read it twice. The first time through, my brain kind of rejected it. He was sitting in a chair next to my hospital bed, in a room where I was hooked up to a machine that was tracking my heartbeat because of him, and he was handing me a paper that said none of that happened. You came to my hospital room, I said, to ask me to sign a paper saying you did not do what you did. His face did not change. It was the same face he wore in every meeting, every deadline review, every time he told someone they were wrong and expected them to agree with him. I came to resolve this like professionals, he said. You had a health scare. That is unfortunate, but there is no reason for this to become something it was not. Sign this, come back to work when you are cleared, and we move forward. No write-up, clean slate. There it was, the trade. He was offering to pull the write-up he never should have filed, and in exchange I would sign a paper that protected him from everything. He was giving me back something he stole and calling it a gift, like I should be grateful. I put the page down on the bed next to me. I am not signing this, I said. His jaw tightened. It was small, just a little clench on both sides, but I saw it. Think carefully, he said. I have managed this department for 11 years. People trust my judgment. If you want to turn this into a he-said situation, I promise you, my record speaks louder than one afternoon. I looked at him sitting there, so sure of himself, and I said, your record is exactly the problem. Something changed behind his eyes. I do not know what, exactly. Not fear. Mr. Keen did not do fear, but something moved in there. Something that told me he had expected this to go differently. He stood up. He picked up the folder. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the handle, and turned back to look at me. I tried to do this the easy way, he said. Remember that. Then he left. I sat there in the quiet of that room with my hands shaking. Not the weak kind of shaking from the heart attack. The other kind. The kind your body does when it is full of something that does not have anywhere to go. I called Dana. I told her every word. The folder. The signature line. The line about HR suggesting it. The offer to trade the write-up for my silence. The thing he said at the door. Dana was quiet, and then she said, he came to your hospital room. He actually came to your hospital room and tried to make you sign that. Then she told me something that changed the shape of everything. She said a senior employee named Gareth had heard about what happened and reached out to her. Gareth had been with the company longer than Mr. Keen. People went to him when they needed to understand how things actually worked, not how management said they worked. He wanted to talk to me. I asked if Gareth had been on the floor that day. He was not there that day, Dana said, but he told me this is not the first time Mr. Keen has done something like this. He said there have been others. I called Gareth that evening. He picked up and was polite but careful at first. I told him about Mr. Keen showing up at the hospital, the folder, the signature line, the thing he said at the door. Gareth was quiet for a few seconds after I finished, and then something in his voice changed, like a lock turning. He opened up. He told me about a coworker from 3 years ago. She had a panic attack on the floor one day, right at her desk, could not breathe, could not stop crying, and Mr. Keen stood in front of the team after it happened and told everyone she was putting on a show for attention. Those were were his exact words, Gareth said. He had said them like he was making an announcement. Then he pressured her into transferring to a different department, made her feel like she was the problem. She quit 6 months later, Gareth said, and I have always regretted not saying something then. He told me he was willing to go to HR with his own statement, everything he remembered, typed up and signed. I thanked him, and I meant it. When I hung up the phone, I sat there in the dim light of that hospital room and looked at my list. It was not just Dana now, 2 witnesses, and a pattern Mr. Keene did not know I knew about. They let me out of the hospital 5 days after I went in. The doctor told me to rest for several weeks. I went home and got to work on the one thing I was not willing to put off. I spread everything out on the dining table. Dana's screenshots of the email and the write-up, Gareth's signed statement, typed up and clean. I contacted the paramedic service and requested a copy of their incident report from that afternoon. When it came in a couple of days later, I printed it out and read it at the table with my coffee going cold next to me. Most of it was medical, vitals, and response times. But there was a line near the bottom in the narrative section that I read about 6 times. It said that a male supervisor on site attempted to physically obstruct access to the patient and verbally disputed the need for emergency services. Flat, careful language, no emotion, no opinion, just facts. But every word was a nail in a coffin, and we both knew whose. I called HR the next morning and asked for a formal meeting. This time I told them I had documentation. I listed every piece: the paramedic incident report, the screenshots, a witness statement from a senior employee about a prior incident. The HR representative went quiet on the other end for a long moment, longer than felt normal. Then she said, "We will schedule this for next week. Please bring everything you have." Her voice sounded different this time. Not the careful, neutral tone from before. Not skepticism. Attention. The meeting was in a conference room at the company's main office. I brought Dana and Gareth with me. When we walked in, Mr. Keene was already seated on the other side of the table with someone from his department next to him. He had that same calm, controlled look on his face, the one he wore like armor. 2 HR representatives sat at the head of the table with folders and laptops open in front of them. Mr. Keene's eyes moved to Dana first, then to Gareth, and when he saw Gareth, his expression flickered, just for a second, like a rock hitting a windshield. Then he smoothed it. HR asked me to go first. I walked them through that afternoon step by step, the chest pain at my desk, going to Mr. Keene and telling him I needed help, his refusal, the accusation that I was faking it, the order he gave Dana not to call 911, the way he physically stepped in front of the paramedics when they arrived. I stuck to facts. No opinions, no feelings, just what happened and when. Then I placed the paramedic incident report on the table and slid it toward the HR representatives. One of them picked it up and read it. I watched her eyes move back and forth over the line about physical obstruction. She did not say anything. She passed it to her colleague, who read it the same way. Mr. Keene spoke next, and he was smooth. I will give him that. He said I was exaggerating a stressful moment. He said he had simply been trying to assess the situation before overreacting. I have managed dozens of employees through various personal issues, he said, and I have always acted with their best interest in mind. He sounded like a man who had practiced those words in a mirror. Then Dana spoke. She described every detail she saw that day, the exact words Mr. Keene used, the order to put the phone down, the way he stood over me while I was struggling to breathe. She pulled up her phone and read his email out loud to the room, the one calling my heart attack a personal matter. She showed the screenshot of the write-up he had filed while I was still in surgery. The room was very still. Gareth went last. He told HR about the co-worker from 3 years ago, the panic attack. Mr. Keene calling it putting on a show for attention, the pressure to transfer departments. He named her. Then he said, "I did not speak up then. I am speaking up now because what happened to him could have been fatal, and I do not believe Mr. Keene sees the difference between an inconvenience and a human life." Mr. Keene cut in before Gareth finished. He said the story was unrelated, that bringing up old history was a character attack, not evidence. One of the HR representatives raised a hand and told him to let Gareth finish. Mr. Keene's jaw locked shut. For the first time in that room, he did not look like the person in control. I placed the last thing on the table, a printed copy of the document Mr. Keene had brought to my hospital room. I explained when he came, what he said, and the deal he had offered, remove the write-up in exchange for my signature. The room got very quiet. Mr. Keene said, "That was an informal resolution attempt. There is nothing wrong with trying to resolve things directly." The HR representative looked at him and asked, "Did you consult HR before presenting this document to an employee recovering from a cardiac event?" Mr. Keene did not answer right away. "I used my judgment," he said. The HR representative wrote something down and did not respond. The meeting ended with HR saying they would conduct a full investigation and that Mr. Keene was being placed on administrative leave effective immediately, pending the results. Mr. Keene stood up slowly. He looked at me across the table. He did not say a word. He picked up his folder, the same one he had carried into my hospital room, and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him, and for the first time since that afternoon at my desk, the room felt like it had enough air in it. 2 weeks later, I got the call from HR. Mr. Keene had been terminated. The write-up was gone from my file. Dana texted me that afternoon. The whole floor had found out. Nobody was pretending it had not happened anymore. Gareth sent a short message a few minutes after that. He said he should have done this 3 years ago and was glad I had not waited like he did. That evening, I sat at the dining table with the paramedic incident report still in front of me. I folded it in half. I put it in a manila folder. I put the folder in the drawer next to my keys.